With that, we do have some awesome guest speakers who are here with us today. We have Jennifer Shear, College Relations Team Lead at Amwins, and we also have Seven Stone, Talent Acquisition Specialist at Amwins. So thank you both so much for being here with us today, and I will turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us. As Tendeka mentioned, my name is Seven Stone. I am a talent acquisition specialist on the college relations team here at Amwins. My main responsibilities are running our internship program, which is nationwide. We have over 215 interns this summer, and we're super proud of the program. I do the recruitment aspect, finding new talent that are interested in the insurance industry, bringing them into the company, hopefully helping them find a career home, and also some of the program management as well for the internship program, making sure it's a quality, that all of our students and interns can get a great experience out of it, develop great professional skills, and maybe even find a career that they love. So I'm super passionate about this space. I'm so glad to be here with you today and help you with the art of interviewing. It's a big deal, a big part of your process as you're going through your career, and super excited to share what I know with you. So thanks for being with us.
Lovely. Thank you, Seven. My name is Jennifer Shear. I am the team lead here at Amwins College Relations. So I have the honor of working side by side with Seven every day. And it's just very rewarding to see students from the very beginning transition through internships and then hopefully full time with Amwins. So my main priority is recruiting for our underwriter development program, which is a training and development program here within Amwins, which we'll talk about later, as well as three other training programs here at Amwins. So it's really unique, again, just working with Seven every day, but also seeing the students from the beginning just transition from internships to full-time opportunities and then full cycle into having their own interns once they become a manager. So it's a really rewarding space to be in. Love connecting with the students. We do a lot of college career fairs, a lot of talking. We understand interviewing is not fun, nor is it easy, but it is something you have to go through. So we are here to help you just hopefully get a little bit more comfortable with that process. And if you have questions throughout, please raise your hands. Don't feel like you have to wait till the end. We are here to truly just give you our tips and tricks that we've seen over the years of doing this. Righty. So, first step is just understanding the interview process, really getting a feel for what you're about to get involved with. Most of the times, once you apply to a position, you'll get some type of confirmation email back just saying, "Thank you so much. Please expect to hear from someone," and then next steps. Usually when a recruiter reaches out, that's when you get the actual details. Like if they want to do an interview, is it going to be a phone interview? Is it going to be a video interview? Or are they inviting you into the office? So really in the beginning, focus on the details. Make sure you are aware of the situation you're about to go into. That way you just feel a little bit more prepared getting ready to step into that space.
Yeah, and in addition to the different interview methods that could happen, there's also different types of interviews as well. We wrote here behavioral, there's technical, where you have to show someone your skills, case-based, maybe they'll give you a problem they expect you to solve. Panel, you might be talking to multiple people instead of just one. It's really important to have that awareness going into your interview of the different types that could be occurring. And when in doubt, if you're unsure, if you feel like the communication from the recruitment team wasn't really clear, please reach out to the recruiter. Don't be afraid to ask questions. It shows a lot of initiative. It shows you want to be prepared. So if you're not clear exactly how the interview will be happening, what type it might be, just ask. That way, when you go into the interview, you're already going to have a lot of nerves. You want to be prepared for what to expect.
And they're there to help you. They do this every day. It is their job. So sometimes we forget, right? Like we forget what it's to be like on the other side. So ask those questions. And like Seven said, it shows initiative. It gets you that first interaction out of the way, which is usually a little nerve-wracking. So yeah, ask us questions. We're here to help you. So I do want to make note, usually the case-based studies and the panel interviews aren't your first interview. That is typically once you go through the process a little bit more in depth. From the Amwins perspective, we always start with just a phone conversation, get to know a little bit more about you, your background, introduce you to who we are and just our culture. It's more of truly like a personality conversation than anything. And then once you get more in depth within our process, it becomes a video call with either the hiring manager or one of our senior recruiters, just getting to know truly more of those behavioral questions. So they'll ask you situations, how you handle things. But first off, typically don't worry about going in front of 10 people on a panel. That's usually once you're getting ready to have a decision of who we're going to extend an offer to. And then as far as timeline and expectations of the interviewing process, this depends on the company itself. But when it comes to schools, colleges, universities, and even high schools, there's usually two major recruitment periods. And that typically is the fall and the spring. So think of your semester system. When you go back to school around Labor Day, that's when universities are starting, or I'm sorry, that's when employers are starting to reach out to universities and connect with the students that are looking for summer internships or looking to graduate in December and or May. That typically wraps up end of the semester before Thanksgiving, so mid-November. And then take most companies take a break during the holidays just because it's hard to have people come on, do training, have the conversations going. Everyone needs a break at that point, especially you college students just going through all the classes. So take that downtime, look for jobs. We probably won't see as much of volume during that period. But once you come back in the spring and January, that's when a lot of employers post their jobs again. So that's when the time frame opens back up and typically stays, as I told, May usually.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll speak from the perspective of internships, whether you're a high school student, college. I always say when students ask me, when do I start looking for internships? When's the best time to start? My answer is always the earlier the better. The earlier you can get in the door, the better. I know from an Amwins perspective, our internships typically go up after Labor Day. So think about September time. So whenever you go back to school, you feel like you're settled, you're in your dorm, you've got your class schedule. It doesn't hurt to start looking and see what's already out there. Every internship program is different. I know with Amwins, we hire based on, how many of our leaders are looking for interns. But other firms, other companies, they may have a set number of interns that they plan to take on. And once they hit that number, they're done recruiting. So the earlier you can get in the door, the better. When you really feel like you're ready to commit to the interview process, you have the time, the energy to focus on going through the interview process, I would highly recommend getting started in the fall. That's typically when a lot of the best opportunities would be out there. But again, if you miss the fall, if you're having either a rough semester or just a busy semester with a heavy course load, come back in the spring, January, when you may have a lighter course load, things have quieted down. Whenever you can get started, the earlier the better.
Absolutely. And the full-time employment that usually follows a pretty similar timeline. However, it's hard to figure out what you want to do after school. So it might take some time. So if you graduate in May, but you don't know if you want to stay in your same area, if you want to move across the country, take some time, figure that out. But no, a lot of companies, they hire as needed. So if you want to take more time, buffer in an extra 2 to 3 months on top of that as far as when you'd actually be able to start. So if you graduate May, but you don't start applying until June, expect to start a job at the end of the summer just because of how long the process takes to get someone through the interview steps, how long onboarding takes. But if you decide, I don't want to start until after the holiday season, if you graduate May, want to take 6 months off to travel Europe, do it. Just know, like, okay, some companies hire as needed, some have classes. So keep these tips and tricks in mind when it comes to applying. And then most companies with their training programs, their cohorts start in the summer after graduation. So for Amwins, it's June. Like Seven said earlier, the earlier the better. We typically start recruiting right after Labor Day, but a lot of those positions, we might not find anyone until April. So the more times you get your name in the hat early, better your chances are and just the overall odds.
Yeah, and maybe you're a go-getter, you're eager, and you're not even, close to graduation yet. And you're like, you know what? I'm ready to lock down that job, that full-time position. That is awesome too. Every company is different. As Jennifer said, hires as needed, but don't be afraid to get your resume in the door early. If it's, 3, 4 months before graduation, you want to start putting your feelers out there. You know you're someone who you really need a job right after you graduate. Go ahead and start before graduation. I think there's no better feeling than walking across the stage and knowing my future is secure. I
Mhm.
know where I'm going after this. So if you want to get started early, go ahead and put that resume out there. Even if for any reason it's not a fit for that particular hiring leader at that time, you've got your resume in the door. Keep in touch with that recruiter. Something could come around right at graduation and you can go right in the door. So if you want to start beforehand, absolutely do so.
Right. So next step is once you get the understanding of what type of interview to expect, it's preparing for the interview. Our biggest advice is research, research, research. Do research on the job, read the job description, have questions ready to go around the job description. Do research on the company, know what type of industry they are, what their culture is. Make sure it's not only a good match for them, but also for you. This is going to be a role you will be spending 40 plus hours a week in. Make sure it's a fit from your side as well. Do research on who's going to be talking to you. Go to their LinkedIn profile. Get comfortable with not only their name, but also maybe a little bit more about their background. And that's always a good topic of conversation. Like ask them, hey, I've seen you've been in the industry for 10 plus years. What do you like about it? Where are the challenges? How would you just advise someone moving into the space to like really focus on when you make that transition from school to internship or full time, whatever it may be. But biggest piece of advice is do your research because the more you do, the more comfortable you are and the more prepared you're going to be.
Yeah, but a big part of your preparation will definitely be thinking about those commonly asked interview questions. There are definitely some go-tos. We have them here. Why do you want to work at this company? Tell me about a time when type questions. But as a part of that research piece, go online. A lot of sites like Glassdoor, other job employment websites, people can write reviews for their interview process, what they think about a company, and they'll often put in, hey, they asked me XYZ or wanted me to do XYZ in the interview process. It doesn't hurt to go through that and read some reviews. Again, make sure it's a company that's a fit for you, that the process aligns with you. But it's a little bit of a cheat code there. You have Google, you have the internet. You might be able to prepare some commonly asked questions, but there are definitely ones that are always a go-to. Again, why do you want to work at the company? Where do you see your career going, in the next 5 years? Having those kind of answers prepared, you don't have to feel like you're reading from a script, but if you know generally the points that you want to get across, the things you want to convey that show the value that you're going to bring to an organization, just have those in the back of your head. I feel like it helps with the nerves aspect.
100%. And like Sam said, the internet now, everything's out there. Definitely do your research and take advantage of that, right? Like it's one of those things that it just helps you. And we briefly talked about preparing questions for the interviewer. Definitely make sure you have questions in place. At the end of almost every interview, the recruiter, whoever you're talking to, ask, is there any questions I can help clarify for you? And it really shows that, again, you were prepared, you did your research, you're eager about the role if you have some type of question or questions in place. I think some of our favorite ones we get is just our experience. How do we feel about the culture? What makes you stay? That's a big one. Definitely listen to the recruiter's answers because they usually tell you if this is an area or company you want to be within. Yes, Kandeka, I see your hands raised.
Yeah, so I had a question. So how, like, is there a certain number of questions that the student should prepare at that point? Is there like a sweet spot, or like how many questions is enough?
Great
Yeah,
question.
I think that's a good point. And we all always want to be respectful of an interviewer's time. We understand they may have other calls, other things, but I'd say depending on the complexity of the questions you have could matter. 3 to 5, I think max is probably a good range. If you have three solid questions, I think that's wonderful. If you have five lighter questions that are you think will be a little bit shorter to answer, that works good. But having three solid ones that things you really want to know about the role, the company, the interviewer, the culture, I think that's a good target.
And I think it also depends on the type of interview you're in. So if it's a case study where you're talking to multiple people, you might have more complex questions to where 10 minutes is maybe two questions versus the cultural, it's lighter, fluffer. So I would say just have at least three, like Seven mentioned, but just take into account what your interview is and the scenario you're going to be in for that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I think next we have practice interviewing out loud and using the STAR methodology for your answers. We're going to touch on that in just a bit, but I definitely want to point out the interviewing out loud. A lot of us don't realize we are not used to hearing the sound of our own voice. You may talk to yourself in your head, you may talk to your friends, family in person, but you're not really used to hearing your tone, your inflections, how you're saying things. And when you get nervous, all of your senses are kind of heightened, but you also have tunnel vision and you tend to focus in on things, and the sound of your own voice is usually a part of that. You'll be in an interview answering a question, thinking in your head, do I really sound like this? Your voice might be quivering and shaking. You're not really used to getting that tunnel vision of nerves and hearing yourself speak. I highly recommend go in front of the mirror. Yes, it's completely awkward. If someone from the outside saw you, they may think you're a little crazy, but that's okay. It's all for the job. Sit in front of the mirror and practice those commonly asked questions. Have a friend, prep with you, give you the question, you look in the mirror, see how not only you're speaking, but also see your own facial expressions. Are you smiling? Are you conveying with your body language if you're excited to be there? That's all a part of the process. So practice interviewing out loud. And again, we'll go into the STAR methodology in terms of how you can frame your questions to keep them concise, but to get your point across.
Yeah, fantastic. That was very well put. It's just one of those things that it does get easier with time, but the more time you put into it, the more natural it's going to be. So, might seem silly for sure, and it definitely is at times, but just get comfortable with yourself and just know we all start in the same spot, and that's just nerve-wracking. But unfortunately, interviewing, it's needed. So, definitely just the more prep you put into yourself, the better off you're going to be. And then the next one, I'm not sure if universities and colleges are still prepping students for the hard copies, but that's something we always love to see as sitting across from someone. They came prepared with a notebook, pen, their resumes. There are a lot of times where we still get messages from the hiring manager saying, like, oh, can you send me their resume? And the interview's in 2 minutes. So it's one of those things that you might have an interviewer step in last minute in place for someone else. They were out sick. So the more prepared you're going to be, again, going back to the research component, the more just comfortable you're going to be is going into the conversation. So always have hard copies on your resume in hand when you walk into a room. Have a pen and pencil. We love to see if you take notes during the conversation. That's great. That's fantastic. That shows, like, again, you're eager, you're ready, you want to retain the information that you were just learning about. And it's one of those things, like, I'm sure all of us have been in that point of conversation where you're getting so much thrown at you from all different angles. It's hard to retain that. So if you just jot down some notes and you can read it afterwards, it might come back to you a little easier. And you're just like, okay, yeah, do remember this component. Okay. So the STAR methodology.
The STAR methodology. So I absolutely love this because once you grasp it, it really is like the cheat code to answering behavioral, situational based questions very concisely. Some of us I know when we get nervous, we can kind of rattle on and on and on, and we lose the plot somewhere along the way, and we're like, I was going somewhere with this and I lost it. And then you're getting in your head and it just goes off into a tangent. So knowing how to ask those tell me about a time when questions is really important. And these are the components of it. So you always start with the situation. You're going to set the scene for the interviewer. Maybe it's a situation in school where you had a group project. You were supposed to be working on a presentation with about 3 or 4 other people. And your task in it was you were responsible for putting together the PowerPoint. You were supposed to get the information from your group mates, compile it together, make it look clean and neat. But there was a challenge. Your group mates weren't getting you what you needed on time. Maybe there was a lack of communication, people were just busy. So, how did you tackle that? What was your action? Well, you took the initiative to set up a group chat with all of your group mates. That way, everyone could just toss in their slides in one place, everyone could see it and confer. Maybe you took the time to talk to everyone individually. What's your schedule like? And set a meeting for everyone together. Maybe you needed to chat with the professor to get their input on how you could get the group together to make it work. That was your action. And always come and end with the result. Now, sometimes the result's going to be positive. Maybe you were able to make it work. You were able to get the whole group together. You got the PowerPoint together. You got an A. It was amazing. But not every scenario is always going to necessarily end positively, but that's okay. You can always frame the results in a positive way. You can say, I didn't really know how to tackle it. I didn't feel comfortable communicating with my group, but what I was able to take from that was I need to work on my confidence of putting myself out there, my communication skills. I learned that I need to rely on the people around me, my professors for guidance. Not every situation, your answer to a behavioral question necessarily has to end, all giddy and happy. We have lots of situations that we learn from where the outcome wasn't positive then, but always spin for your interviewer what you would do in the now to make it a positive scenario if you were to encounter that again. So again, that is the STAR methodology, a clear, concise way to answer these questions. It may seem a little convoluted at first, but once you start going through situation, task, your action and the results, you'll find that it keeps your answers very concise. And most importantly, it allows you to get your points across in a way that you're not sitting there talking for 10 minutes and again wondering, where did we go with this? What was the question?
And a good way to know if you were able to successfully use the STAR methodology is the recruiter asking you several follow-up questions to try to get the end result. If they respond like, oh, that is lovely, glad you learned from that, you probably did it correctly. Or if they're like, okay, like, what was the end result? Or how would you do this differently? That's a tidbit that you could probably just utilize that in your next interview or next answer that you're going to provide. Very well done there. It's great. All right, so now that you understand how to prepare, did your research, you know how to answer questions, it comes to tips for a successful interview. So we like to state the obvious. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not, but punctuality goes a long way. If you're on time, you're late. 15 minutes early is always a great rule of thumb. Be in the lobby, introduce yourself to whoever's checking you in. Make them know that you're ready, but take their time. If they still need some time to get prepared, great. You're there. You're ready to go whenever they are. So be prepared and dress for success. If you're not really sure what the dress code is or how to go about it, reach out to the person who's you're going to be interviewing with. The recruiter sometimes states that in the initial interview contact request. Sometimes they don't. So it's always great to just ask, but another rule of thumb, we always say you would rather be overdressed than underdressed.
And definitely with Dress for Success, I know times are changing. We want to show our personalities as well. It is perfectly fine to put a little flair on things within the dress code. If you have a nice, colorful purple tie you love, it's your good luck tie. wear it. Be yourself. You don't have to come in just a black suit or a black, blazer and skirt. Put a little personality on it. Make sure that you feel confident in what you're in, that it feels like you. That's really important for your confidence in the interview as well. And once you get in the room, greet everyone that is within the room. Make sure you have a nice firm handshake, eye contact, and a smile. I know some of us can shut down a little bit internally when we get nervous and you forget to smile or you forget to look people in the eye. Try to just take a deep breath, relax, and just focus on greeting everyone. Making that first initial connection is really going to put you at ease. When you look in their eyes and you smile, they smile back at you. You've made just that little connection, and that point will help everyone in the room to relax because nerves are definitely a component of interviewing for everyone involved.
Absolutely, especially from our side. We're still nervous when we talk about just interviewing and even these sessions. We still have to prep ourselves ahead of time, like, all right, we got this. So everyone gets nervous. That's human nature, that's meeting new people. But something to keep in mind is communication isn't always just talking and listening, it's also reading the room, the body language. So smiling, like Seven says, puts everyone at ease. We all want to help each other, especially in the insurance industry. It is such a servant-led industry that really just starting off with that warm greeting goes a long way. And then the next thing we always just recommend is, again, don't be nervous. I know we touched base on this, but if you get nervous, maybe go out, like in your car, listen to your hype jams, whatever it may be, like knock some of those nerves out. If you need to give yourself a little reward afterwards, go get some ice cream. Like it is okay. It is not an easy process, but we all have been in your shoes. Even if it has been for a while, we get it. We understand sitting on the other side of the table that it takes time to get comfortable in these scenarios. And then when you're in the interview, just be focused on who you're talking to, what they're saying, be present. If at any point you have questions, just let it know, like, hey, are you okay if I ask something? Or maybe if you just, again, show your body language, like you're a little puzzled or you have just something you want to urge, they will pick up on that. It's really, again, a conversation more than anything.
Absolutely. The best interviews are always conversations where you feel like you get out of the room and you're like, man, did I ask all the questions? We were just chatting and laughing and joking around, and you really feel like that person would fit well with the culture of your company, which I know for Amwins is very lighthearted and fun and collaborative. So definitely focus on that. And if you feel your nerves taking over, you hear your voice shake, you're like, oh, this isn't going in the direction I want. It's okay to say, I apologize. I'm a little nervous because I'm very excited about this opportunity. I'm grateful to be in the room. It's okay to call attention to it. And your interviewer might say, oh, thank goodness you said that because I'm so nervous too. Because we get nervous when we pick up the phone and we call people or we interview people. It's a new person. So don't be afraid of that, to make it a conversation and make it an honest one. Oh, and I see we have a hand up from Jacob.
Hello, hello. You might have already answered this in a step away. Um, when you're answering these long-winded questions, they say at multiple parts, A, B, and C. I sometimes forget where I was going with it. Is it okay to re-ask like what exactly they're looking for, or just to restate the question again?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that also goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It shows that you are invested in the conversation and just reiterates how excited you are. So if you need them to repeat themselves or phrase it a different way, let them know. Like it really does come down to the conversation and just communication. So yeah, definitely don't think that's a bad thing for to be rephrased or asked to repeat it, because especially some of these questions can be long. It can be three, four questions when it should start off with one and then go into the next and make it more of a conversation. So yeah, I think that's a great question and very fair of you to ask the interviewer.
Absolutely. And a lot of times our nerves can affect our memory and recall ability. So when they're going through A, B, and C, and you may get lost after A and then lost after B, another cheat code, that's where that pen and paper and your notes could come into play. You could ask them, hey, would you mind repeating that question? I want to write down each of the components because I really want to give you a well-rounded answer. Always frame it in a positive. You've got that pen and paper right there. Don't be afraid to say, hey, would you mind repeating that? I'm going to take down each part of the question and I want to make sure I go in depth with each one. And again, give you a well-rounded answer. There's always a way to say things that kind of spin it to, you're detail oriented. So definitely don't be afraid to use that pen and paper, write down those components of the question. That way you can hit every single point.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, and then that goes into the next thing. I know the whole conversation we've been talking about just staying positive, just speaking your truth, and that comes into tell the truth. If you are applying for a role that requires XYZ and you don't have XYZ, that's okay. If you're still interested, apply. You never know. Some companies like to see the initiative and they will train you on what you need to know. But if you step into a role that required you to be bilingual and they expect you to be bilingual and you get there first day and you only know one language, that's not a great situation to put yourself into, and it's probably not going to have a great outcome. So tell the truth, and even the little things, telling stories. We all want to be exciting, we all want to be memorable, but if you're telling something that's completely fabricated and it comes up in a couple of months in a conversation, you probably aren't going to remember the lies that you told, but you will always remember the truth because that's how it happened. So it's just one of those things that stay true to yourself, stay true to what's going on. And if you truly don't know an answer, let them know, but I don't necessarily know that, but that's great. I would love to get back to you on that. Do you mind if we just talk about this a little bit later into our conversation? Give me time to think about it or do research on it. It is okay to tell the truth if you don't know what they're asking for. That is something that I think I'd rather, from an interviewer standpoint, know firsthand.
Absolutely. And that can kind of tie into, never talking poorly about others. When we say tell the truth and you have the outcome of a scenario that wasn't necessarily positive on someone else's end, there's always a way to tell the truth, but to spin it to a positive. Well, I had a conflict in my prior position where, maybe the culture wasn't a fit for me, but that's what got me so excited about your company is I'm looking for these values that align with my own. Always frame things to a positive, what you've learned, what you now know that you want. There's no need to really talk about negatively other people, other companies. You can be honest and say, just wasn't a fit, or I just didn't align with this person, but always spin it to what you learned out of it. It's never really a great look to go on tangents about how much you hated your last company or hated your last boss or your coworkers. Always a way to frame things to a positive while still being honest.
That speaks volumes about who you are and your character as well. And especially for firms such as Amwins, like we focus on the people. The people are our number one assets. We can train you what you need to know, but we can't necessarily train you and like who you believe you are and how you want to represent yourself. So just be true to yourself, be true to others, and if you need to learn something, ask. We're here to teach you. We all start at the same place, and especially in the insurance industry, that's literally learning how to spell the word insurance. So next point is ask next steps. If you are eager about this role and you want to continue this conversation, let the people know that. Say, I really enjoyed this conversation. I would love to continue to move forward and being considered for the role, but can you tell me what to expect for the next steps? Will I hear from you within a certain amount of time? Will it be email? Will it be a phone call? How should I be prepared going into the next phase of conversation?
It's definitely important to let your interviewer know you are interested, you're enthusiastic, you're excited. Some interviews, they actually score based on that. How enthusiastic was this candidate about the role? Could I sense that enthusiasm over the phone or in person? I always say the more enthusiasm, the better. You want to work with people who are excited to be there every day. Again, shows a lot about who you are, about your character. And that comes into kind of closing on that positive and enthusiastic note. I always like to say when the interview ends, if everyone in the room is smiling, it was probably a pretty good interview. So you want to leave the room, you having a big smile, feeling good that you got all your points across, your enthusiasm across, and hopefully you'll get that energy back from your interviewer. And it just leaves a good impression. I feel like you always find that like the last few minutes of the interview is really what sticks in a lot of interviewers' head. And if it was positive, even if it started out, a little rocky, you sad to say you were nervous, but you ended on a positive, you made a great connection. That's really what they're going to remember.
Mm-hmm. And to Seven's point, most interviewers at the end of the conversation make that final decision. Are you moving on to the next round or not? Especially if it was kind of a back and forth conversation of like, it could go one way, could go another. But if you end on that positive note of, thank you for this conversation, really enjoyed it, getting to know you, the company more, this position, I would love to continue on. But one question to always be prepared for is, what about this role made you interested in having a conversation? That's usually the final decision for the interviewer. There's a lot of times where we think we could have a conversation. We ask that the individual can't tell us an answer. They can't tell us anything about the firm, can't tell us anything about the role. We're like, you know what? We loved having the conversation with this person, but they just weren't prepared. We're going to move forward with other people that were prepared. So it doesn't always have to be jumping out of your seat, shown eager. That's not everyone's personalities, but it is, again, just showing you did your time, your research, prepared, and just reiterating your wants and interests. Alrighty, famous question. What now? We did it. So are we done?
You're definitely not done after the interview. In a way, your performance after the interview, again, shows a lot about who you are as a person, what type of employee that you will be at your company, at your firm. We highly, highly recommend. Please follow up with the interviewer. That is super important. We love to get follow up emails from candidates who we've just spoken to saying, thanks again for your time. I really love that conversation, reiterating their interest. It's an amazing way to make an impression even after the interviewer. And I have to tell you, from a hiring manager standpoint, there have been some times where there are decisions where they're between two candidates who are absolutely fantastic, who they absolutely love, and they can't make a decision. And I've had some say to me, tell me who follows up. Tell me who follows up, who reiterates again that they're interested. Tell me who really wants this. And sometimes it's been that candidate that gets the role because that enthusiasm, again, is coming across. So absolutely follow up with your interviewer again, even after. Keep yourself at the top of their mind. They may have a long list of candidates that they've interviewed. The list may be short. You're never really sure. So keep your name coming up.
And most companies have systems, which we call ATSs, which are applicant tracking systems, where every individual has their own profile and the jobs they apply to. So any type of communication gets put into that. So Seven and I love to see the thank you notes. We also attach it to your profile. So if you apply to another job and another recruiter is working that job, they see that you have been interested before, that you have reached out and taken that initiative. So it follows you. Setting that good precedent and that tone, it's really just going to help pay off in the future. And something that we like to discuss is you might get through an interview and you realize, it's just not the best fit. It's not what you're looking for. It might be the actual job or the company. That's okay. We're not all meant to have the same role at the same place. So it's okay to also let the people know and be like, you know what, thank you for your time. However, after further considering just this position, I'm gonna move forward with other companies at the time. Or if it's truly the role but not the company, be like, you know what, I love this company. I would love to continue to keep myself available for other opportunities within the company, but I'm gonna step back from this one. You don't need to go into details of why. most of the time I don't think we ever ask why, to be honest. Like we thank you back, just like thank you for letting us know, we'll keep you in mind. But it is 100% okay to decline a role from your side. You have to make sure it's a fit for you as well. And then timeline, when do you send this follow-up? What does that look like? It's really subjective. However, we always say rule of thumb, 1 to 2 days. Keep your mind or keep your conversation and your name at the top of the interviewer's mind. We have some people that follow up right after the conversation. That is completely okay. We have some people who want to reflect. They want to do a little bit more research. They want to add some touch points in that thank you letter, whether it's thank you for this. I thought of a question. Can you help me just clarify what is the day-to-day in this role or the dress code? Adding something that keeps that conversation is always a good stepping stone and something to add into your thank you letter.
Yeah. And remembering the timeline you were given as well is really important. That comes into that research piece that we talked about. Oh, they told me I should hear something within 1 week. It's been 8 or 9 days, and you haven't really heard back even after sending a follow-up, initial follow-up. Follow up again. That's perfectly okay. Send another email. If they gave you a number, told you to call, it's okay to call, even if you have to leave a voicemail. You really want to show your interest. There can be things happening behind the scenes from an HR standpoint, recruitment standpoint, a company standpoint that can slow down the hiring process. Maybe we've had a big project come up. Anything can really happen, and we have to put something on pause, but you may not know that. So keeping yourself again at top of mind and just saying, thank you again for your time. Wanted to follow up. Hadn't heard anything. I'm very interested. And just let them know, I'd like to know either way. Even if this isn't the opportunity, thanks again for your time. And I'm really hoping we can continue to stay in touch.
Excellent. And before we hop into who we are as a firm, Amwins, something we forgot to mention when it comes to preparing and understanding your type of interview is when it comes to a video interview, don't pull a Jen and a 7. Have some type of full wall or blurred screen behind you so you don't get distracted with everyone walking by. So just little tips and tricks. Definitely been distracted ourselves seeing people walk by, but if you weren't told that, letting you know now. Righty, so we're Amwins. No, we talked about our name or dropped our name a few times throughout the conversation, but for those that don't know who we are a property and casualty specialty wholesaler here in the insurance industry. So we only deal with business to business relationships with other insurance professionals. We don't do your standard home, auto, boat. We do harder to place risks, things like environmental, cat. We even have a team that strictly underwrites the horses that run in the Kentucky Derby. So things that take a little bit more investigation, time, thought, analyzing, that's where we come into play. But we help really just connect the retail agencies and the markets and carriers to each other. So we like to say we find the creative solutions to create a win-win-win scenario for everyone involved.
And internships. So this is my specialty, something I absolutely love. We love helping to prepare up and coming talent for the insurance industry, whether you're an RMI major, risk management and insurance, or you're a psych major like myself, and you never thought about insurance a day in your life, but you heard about this awesome company and you wanted to take a chance on it. Our internships are absolutely fantastic, typically over the summer season, but there are some opportunities here and there throughout the school year. Usually 8 to 12 weeks over the summer, paid internships. You should absolutely be paid for the hard work that you're putting in. We feel like interns are valued members of our team. So I absolutely love how it introduces students to that wholesale market. Even if you come in completely green, I always give a little cheat code on how to remember what we do. Because a common question I get is, are you guys like Jake from State Farm? And I'm like, wait, no, that's a great question. But people like a Jake from State Farm would come to someone at Amwins and say, I have this really complex insurance risk that's really unusual, and I can't figure out how to place this risk, how to get this person coverage. They would come to an underwriter or a broker here at Amwins, and we would help them to place that risk. We help amazing businesses, amazing people find the coverage that they wouldn't be able to get anywhere else. And that helps businesses in our local area around the country, survive and thrive. So we love introducing students to this really unique place in the insurance industry that I always like to say is like a hidden gem. So what I love about our internships is you're placed on a full-time team with us. Your team leader will be your mentor typically for the summer. They're guiding you from start to finish, learning about you, your career goals, your aspirations. Even if you're not completely sure if it's insurance yet, obviously something about our company has stood out to you. There's something here you can take out of it. There's networking opportunities, not only within the team you're in, but within your office. Also nationwide, we work really hard to keep our interns connected to their local leadership team as well as our national leadership team for the company. Just giving you exposure to a different area of the industry. Carriers, the people we go to, our brokers go to help place those risks. Retailers who are our clients, you get used to seeing how people liaison with clients, how they communicate. And most importantly, you get used to being a part of a great culture. I think it's so, so important to find the kind of company culture that aligns with you. And sometimes that's trial and error, but if you can find it sooner rather than later, I think that's great. I have to say, Amwins was my first ever job out of college, and I am still here. And it was the culture that sold me, and all the love for insurance came after that. They taught me the insurance piece, but it was the culture that really drew me in the door. We are hardworking, but we're collaborative. We don't have cutthroat competition here, any internal competition. We want to see each other succeed, no matter what level you are, whether you're an intern just starting out, people are invested in you. They want to know, what are your goals? What are you majoring in school? How can I help you get to where you want to be? And along with that comes all of that on the job training. We teach you about insurance, of course, giving you a good knowledge base if you decide this is a career for you. But we also teach you those basic professionalism skills, how to operate in a corporate business work environment. It's probably a new environment for you. So we want you to get comfortable. And no matter where you go after this internship, we love if it was with us, because I will say we have an amazing pipeline from internship to full time. We're always looking for conversion opportunities. If you want to be with us long term, we want to find the home for you and the place for you within Amwins. But if it's not, that's totally okay. We designed the program so that you can always get something out of it and take it with you in whatever career you decide. And maybe, hey, 5 to 10 years, you come back around and you decide this is the place for you. So proud of our internship program. We have amazing leaders that are ready to guide you. So we'll have our contact information at the end. If you have any questions, you want to know more, I'm more than happy to hop on a call. And we do have a question from Nancy.
Thank you so much for the amazing presentation. I am Nancy, currently a graduate student at Georgia State, pursuing a dual master's in data science and quantitative risk management. My question is more on answering questions that you're not really quite aware of. From a recruiter standpoint, what is your expectation from your candidate, especially like, sitting in an interview when you're asked a question that you're not really quite knowledgeable of, instead of sometimes you find yourself point blank, and if you answer that question wrongly, it makes you ruin everything else, so it ruins your entire interview session. Um, What's your advice on tackling such type of scenarios and such type of questions? And what is your expectation from the candidate at that point? And how do you get over that instead of ruining everything else? Like, how do you jump out of that and, still ensure that you still have a great interaction with your interviewer?
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, a little bit of a hard question to answer as well. So we really try to be the face of just getting you comfortable with this process. We try not to have any type of expectations going into a conversation and really just be there more as support and guidance and helping you learn more about the role in the company. So as far as you possibly not being able to answer a question or answer it fully, there's not really, I would say, expectations on that. We want to know more of, okay, if you are getting stumped, how are you overcoming that? What is your critical thinking process behind it? Are you just letting the interviewer know and be like, you know what, that is a great question. It is something I haven't had a lot of experience on, but I feel like if I was to come across this question or this problem, this is how I would go about solving it. So if you don't necessarily have that experience, that's okay, but just work through that problem and let them know why you're working through it the way you are. A lot of times when those questions or are more complex, it sometimes is to stump you up, but the interviewer wants to know more of how are you overcoming that obstacle.
That's a great point. I know you mentioned data science. You could potentially get some technical questions,
Yeah.
knowledge on a specific program that there's kind of just a very black and white answer. Showing your initiative to learn. As Jennifer mentioned, saying, I'm a little stumped on that. That's something I haven't encountered, but I really love to learn. I like to learn new things, and I can bring that skill to the table for this job. What I'm going to do is reflect on your question afterwards. I'm going to do some research and I'm going to follow up with you via email, and I'm going to give you a really well-rounded answer based on what I've learned. It's totally okay not to know something, especially as a student. And oftentimes, as Jennifer mentioned, your interviewers see your resume. They know you're a student. Sometimes they're throwing you a harder question to see how you can manage yourself maybe under pressure. What's your critical thinking like? Your problem solving in the moment. If you get one of those technical questions, you're stumped, show them that you're willing to learn anything that's needed for this role. Take it home, process it, learn, get back to them with a really good answer. It's totally okay not to know something. I really feel like we said, it's how you handle it in the moment.
Well said. Very well
Okay.
said.
No,
Yeah, great
thank
question, Nancy.
Yeah.
thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, so I know we are getting quick on time, but just gonna run through a little bit more. If you're past the internship stage and you're looking for a full-time opportunity, where to start? Amwins, we like to say we're a beast of our own. We thrive in the gray. So when it comes to our employees, we have a fantastic learning and development team that teaches you, gives you the resources you need to grow and develop in that gray area. So kind of like what Seven was saying earlier, like we aren't expecting you to know all of this coming out of school. We're here to give this to you. So we will put our employees in several different situations to allow you to grow and develop. Whether that's taking you to different conventions and networking events, whether it's locally or nationally, we want you to have the opportunity and the exposure to new situations and scenarios to learn and pivot. And not only experience yourself, but if you're going with a mentor or group members, seeing how they interact in those situations. Listening to your coworkers is some of the best things you can do for yourself because you will pick up tips and bits constantly. You will see how to rephrase different topics or how to just interact with people in a new scenario. Here at Amwins, we not only love to lean into that learning and development team to really just train and coach our employees, but we also have designed development programs across the company. We have a few that start off right out of school. We see a really good transition from students transferring from school to full-time opportunities in this program because it is a combination of classroom training as well as in-person training. So it is one of those things that you start making those little stepping stones to get into more of your comfort and comfort and confidence skill sets. See, that's the nerves coming out. Still happens. And then as far as additional resources, not only hands-on collaborative trainings, but we also have something we call Amwins University, which is an online library. We have thousands of different videos, lectures, training pieces, materials that are there for you to utilize. So it's something you will all get day one, but we also allow it for any phase of your career. And then we also love to introduce you to our connections. I'm sure you hear this. Insurance is very much relationship business. It is always going to be a space where you're going to run into someone's mother who was twice removed from the cousin side, whatever it may be. Like there's always going to be a 60-degree connection there. So we will teach you from day one of how to just make those little notes of how to personalize those relationships and how to remember conversations you've had with people maybe years ago. If you run into them at a meeting, like, oh my gosh, how are you doing? Your last time we spoke, your daughter was getting ready for school. How's that going? Or, hey, I know you were going on this trip. Tell me about it. There's little tips and tricks that you'll always pick up, but we will prepare you as a new employee to not only get the content and the materials you need to grow from a technical standpoint, but also the soft skills you need as well to really thrive in the insurance industry. So, Amwins, we have a lot of opportunities, entry level training programs, internships. If you ever have questions or want to talk more in depth, please do not hesitate to reach out to us.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And then, as they mentioned, they have their email addresses up on the screen. So this is a fantastic opportunity for everyone to take screenshots or to write it down. I did also pop their LinkedIn URLs in the chat box as well. So make sure you scroll up if you missed it. Or, literally just type in their names in LinkedIn to be able to connect with them. So please join me in a virtual round of applause for Jennifer and for Seven for spending an hour with us and sharing all of these tips and tricks. It was truly amazing. So as you all know, we have these sessions on a weekly basis throughout the summer, which means our next session is going to be next week, Thursday, July 17th from 1 to 2 Eastern. Our presenting company is going to be Jewel North America. So I know I pronounce it like the British way, but it's Dual, which is Jewel is how I say it, but I'm sure there's a different way to say it. And our guest speaker is going to teach us the fundamentals of cyber and technology risk. So it should be a very interesting conversation. So take a moment to register if you're not yet signed up for that session. And again, Jennifer, Seven, thank you so much for being here with us today. And to everyone else, enjoy the rest of the day. It was great seeing you.
Thank you.
Thank
It was a
you.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Awesome.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Yeah.